Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Michael Fleischner. An entrepreneur, speaker, author, investor, and freelancing coach. He's also the founder of Freelance Training Academy. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show, Michael. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about how one can launch their freelance career. But before we come to this, let's understand a bit about your journey from corporate America to freelancing.
Yeah, thank you so much. My journey, I feel, is unique, but at the same time, many people are experiencing the same thing. I recently did a TEDx talk about being in corporate America for many years, working my way up the corporate ladder, and then ultimately waking up one day and realizing that I was just feeling unfulfilled. There was something missing from my day job, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But as circumstances would have it, I found myself in a situation where I could start to do some freelancing on the side. And freelancing, for those who are not familiar with it, is essentially turning your passion or hobby into a source of income. So for me, as a marketer, someone who did marketing, digital marketing, I was able to work with small businesses, entrepreneurs, companies actually of all sizes, offering some freelance help, some marketing help, whether it was writing emails or press releases or even helping with website development. So I started to do those things on the side while I was still in my full-time job, and it didn't take away from my full-time job. I worked on nights and weekends whenever I had a chance to do so. And I quickly discovered that the 9-to-5 job wasn't the only way to make income, and it was, in fact, not the way for me to really live my passion or live life to the fullest. Instead, working on this little side hustle was really what fulfilled me and ultimately became a source of income. So I was able to transition. It took some time, but I was able to transition out of corporate America into full-time freelance work, which obviously gave me a lot more freedom, truthfully, a lot more income, and more importantly, allowed me to feel more fulfilled and as though I was creating more value for people than I was in my full-time job.
Wonderful, Michael. So we'll come to much more details about this. One thing I want to understand about becoming a freelancer is it almost my understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that in the freelance business or in the freelancing system, there is almost like a class divide. One is the top-notch freelancers who are, who have the cake, and they can decide what way they want to do things. They are actually the freelancing business. The other freelancers, which is the general population, they are ones who others think that they can be taken for granted in terms of the type of money they should get, the type of projects that they should get in every aspect of the thing. How would you want us to understand? Is it changing, or is it going to be? Or if you look at it from someone who wants to get into freelancing, and not just freelancing business, how should they make sure that they do not fall into any of these brackets, because the top bracket is still far away from them and the other bracket nobody would like to get into? How do they then get into a bracket of their own, which is full of dignity as well as a good amount of money too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a couple of things to keep in mind. One is you don't want to be part of the masses when it comes to freelancing. Specifically, what I'm talking about is thinking about the services that you offer and offering the same exact thing that everybody else does. A great example of this would be Fiverr. So today you can use a site like Fiverr or Upwork You can post something that you are selling, a service. And honestly, it's a race to the bottom because you're competing against everyone else who's offering the same service. And a lot of people want to start there because it's easy, but unfortunately, it's kind of this circular game that you can never get out of. So, my recommendation is instead taking a step back, thinking about what you can offer in a unique way. So, maybe you're offering copywriting services, but instead of just writing emails for someone, you are instead building out their funnel with the emails included. So now instead of being, a copywriter, you're actually providing email automation. So it can set you apart from the masses. So that's really the first thing. I think we got to be mindful of how you're kind of packaging your services and where you're competing. The other is to look for what I call non-traditional freelance channels. And this could be something as simple as friends and family. So instead of trying to package your stuff and throw it on Fiverr or Upwork and compete with everyone else, instead get really clear on what you offer and who your audience is, and then start to network and start with friends and family, simply telling them, hey, this is what I do. This is what I offer. Here are the types of people I can help, and start to leverage and work that network so that you can get one client, which turns into two clients, which can turn into four clients and more. So I agree. I think there can be a divide, but if you're more strategic about it, about how you acquire business, how you position yourself, what you offer, making sure it's unique, you can really overcome those barriers and start to create a really nice freelance business for yourself.
Right, Michael. So how does one, you shun away all these other platform, Fiverr, Upwork, or any other platform? Then is there any particular platform at least you should be in? Like LinkedIn, okay, understood. But then there, I don't know when you can, solicit work very openly, or one should. How should you make use of the available platforms rather than just personal networking? Or is it only should the best way is to have this personal networking?
hmm Yeah, I'm not opposed to Fiverr and Upwork in general, meaning if it's used correctly, which to me would be for an initial offer, like having a really clear, unique offer there as a gateway to bigger business, that's okay. But relying on it for all of your business is a big mistake. Again, all the things we just talked about, it's a race to the bottom. You can really only charge what other people are charging. But if you position yourself on those networks, with a really clear, specific offer that's unique, I think it's a good way to get people into your funnel. You also mentioned LinkedIn. If people don't feel comfortable about promoting themselves on LinkedIn, let's say they have a full-time job, they don't want their boss to know that they have a side hustle or they're freelancing, one of the most important things you can do is be mindful of your online reputation. So when someone looks you up, what are they seeing? And you should have a really robust profile on LinkedIn. And again, no one can fire you for having a LinkedIn profile. And you should leverage that platform to make sure that when people are researching you, you show up. And the only additional thing I would add in terms of platforms is to really think about the World Wide Web as a playground where you can start to build different assets that will position you favorably from a freelance perspective. For me, one of the big things that we actually do for clients and I've done for myself is create these online media kits. An online media kit is a website that you own, that you control, that's under your name, and you can say whatever it is you want to say about yourself. Really, the goal is to share all of your experience, all of your insights, position yourself as a thought leader. And by doing that, it makes the whole sales process much easier, even if people are just finding you randomly or they've been referred to you and they're looking you up online.
Right, right, Michael. Now, in terms of, how do you ensure that your potential clients take you seriously, if especially when you do not have many years of experience? And how do you do that? Secondly, how do you create that bargaining power for yourself? Because
Hmm.
people think freelancer means cheap. You can get your work cheap. And as you said, there are options available everywhere on the internet, so they
Hmm.
would always want to get the best price for them. What is the best way? And at the same time, others, this big word is about big ticket clients. Focus on big ticket clients and all that. Well, that could be right, but I'm trying to still understand, if you do not have the bargaining power, how do you then go for big ticket clients? Because you got to pay your bills too.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to give two, I think, really important lessons, if you will, in response to that. The other thing which you did mention is really kind of having these case studies or references, and those are important to build over time. So we don't want to dismiss that. We do want to note, to your point, people who are just starting out may not have that. So there are a couple of things that freelancers can do, or anyone getting into the freelance game. The first one is transparency. Transparency is so key because 95% of freelancers don't do this. And as a result, they're not successful. And what I mean is, if someone is starting a process with a potential client, they need to be fully transparent about the work, how much time it takes, what it costs elsewhere to get a similar service, what makes them unique, what their process is. We see this a lot with search engine optimization. My company, BigFin SEO, we've been in the game for almost 2 decades, and the reason is largely transparency. We use a very specific process to do SEO. We articulate that process, how long it takes, what's unique about it, and what it actually costs. And by offering that transparency, we really build trust among prospects and clients. The second piece that I would recommend is this idea of setting a high anchor. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, instead of talking with a prospect or even a client about, you know, hourly work, instead talk about impact, talk about value, and price that in a high range down to a low range. See, oftentimes people say, oh, yeah, it'll cost anywhere from $500 to $1,500. But in my experience, you can set a high anchor saying we typically charge, or we charge as much as $2,500 all the way down to $1,500. And by setting the anchor higher, it changes the mindset of the prospect in terms of the value of what you're delivering possibly is or could be. So I believe that transparency, setting high anchors, these are all things you can do immediately, where, of course, at the same time, you want to be building those case studies, testimonials, proof of work. But in lieu of that, you can use these other techniques to really build trust and get people to say yes to start working with you.
Right, right. Great, Michael. Now, one more thing about the mindset. A lot of freelancers, they think, that I am freelancing, I am a meek freelancer. How do I bring that freelancing business mindset into my mind, so that, forget about others, before others think about me as some serious freelance business person, I think about myself that way, and then you reinforce it on other. How do I bring that thing so that I take it as something very serious, important, that I am doing, even if I've just started?
Mhm. I think one of the most important things is to have very specific goals around your freelancing and your freelance business. So some people, I know people we work with in the Freelance Training Academy, they just want to make an extra few $100s a month, and that's their goal. So they're focused on, how can I get there? How can I do that consistently? And when you have specific goals that are achievable, that of course you want stretch goals, but you want to focus on some achievable goals, or we like to call them small wins. And when you do that, you start to build momentum and confidence in yourself and your ability to be a successful freelancer. One of the things I talk about in my book, The Seven Figure Freelancer, is this idea of crawl, walk, and run. And I talk about this concept frequently because it's the one thing I see that the top freelancers do consistently. And that is they don't expect to be making millions of dollars day two of freelancing. Instead, they say, okay, how can I get started? What's a small goal I can achieve? And when they achieve that goal, then they can kind of stand up and start to walk and then ultimately run and be truly successful. But it all starts with kind of breaking down these big, lofty goals into small, attainable, and achievable ideas that you can actually achieve and feel successful. And when you have that feeling, it begets more feelings of success and bigger ideas in your imagination about what's possible.
Right, right. And talking about your book, I'll come to the book after this question. Is freelancing for everyone? Or is it, they have, how do they check their mental makeup whether freelancing is for them or a 9 to 5 job is the best for these people?
I think there are different degrees of freelancing. So some people just want to make a few extra $100 doing something that they enjoy. It might be interior decorating or dog walking, whatever they want to do in addition to their full-time job. And they can, in fact, be freelancers. There are other people who want to be full-time freelancers. They want to leave their full-time jobs. They want the flexibility to travel and work anywhere, anytime. And I think that they are very different people, but both could be considered freelancers. If I look at the most successful freelancers, those who have truly transitioned into the freelance lifestyle, they are people who are very strategic. They're willing to put in the work. And I like to say they're scrappy, meaning they have grit. They're willing to learn. They're willing to be flexible. They're willing to adapt to their circumstances. And I think if you're someone who is just incredibly rigid and you like to have every single detail figured out before you act, freelancing probably isn't for you, or it's certainly going to be more challenging than people who are open, they're flexible, and they're willing to learn.
Right, right, Michael. And now let's come to your book, The Seven Figure Freelancer. This name itself sounds so lucrative that people will forget about the problems that they may need to tackle before thinking about anything. But this is a nice thing. And I'm sure a lot of people are making a lot of money by doing this freelancing. How do I think of becoming a seven figure freelancer? First, is it possible for anyone, or is it only possible for few people? Who is this book for?
I really think it's possible for anyone who's currently feeling unfulfilled in their full time job. The reason people feel unfulfilled is because they're not following their passion, they're not doing meaningful work. And I'm of the belief that when you are doing those things that fulfill you, that energize you, that you're truly passionate about, the sky's the limit. I know for me, I was very conservative. I always felt like you needed to go work for a corporation, give that corporation everything, and the corporation would take care of you. But the reality is, you're just a number to them. And of course, not all businesses are that way, but many are, especially larger corporations. You're there to make them money. So why not invest that time and energy in yourself to make not only money, but create a life for yourself where you are feeling like you're creating value for yourself and others. So obviously freelancing isn't for everyone, and not everyone wants to be a freelancer. There's risk involved, there are challenges involved, there are ups and downs. But what I can say is that if you are on this journey of freelancing, it's going to help expand not only who you are, but your belief of what you're truly capable of. And I happen to believe that people really don't give themselves enough credit. They don't necessarily believe in their ability to achieve new things. And this path of freelancing can definitely teach you a few things about yourself and really what you can achieve.
Right, right, Michael. So, that leap of faith from your 9 to 5 job to becoming a freelancer, how much time should they give to themselves? Should they just wake up one morning, resign, leave their job and get into freelancing? Or there is a very good strategy that is needed? How long should they think about it? 1 year, 2 years, less? How should one look at it?
Well, I certainly know people who have literally gotten up, quit their jobs, and started freelancing right away. I can tell you that certainly wasn't for me. I do not have that level of risk tolerance. So, my recommendation is again, going back to setting goals. Do you want to start freelancing? If so, by when? And what's your goal at 6 months and maybe a year? And for some people, that might be a few $100s a month. Others, it might be thousands of dollars per month. It's really unique to the individual. And for me, I told myself that I would not leave my full time corporate job until I was making the same or more as a freelancer at the same time, because I just didn't have the comfort or belief in myself that I could pay for healthcare, pay, daily living expenses, support a family, save for my kids' college tuition. I didn't have that belief in myself until I was seeing really the results from the freelance business. So for me, I said, I'm not leaving and becoming a freelancer until I'm earning the same or better. But other people may look at it and say, you know what, my monthly expenses are, I don't know, $3,000 a month. And if I can cover that as a freelancer, I'm going to leave and become a full-time freelancer. So it's certainly unique for everyone, but that's sort of the evaluation that I would encourage people to go through and think about before they make the leap. And when you do that, and again, be strategic about it, really have an understanding of where you'll be comfortable, that makes the transition much, much easier.
Right, right. And so let's talk about a bit about your freelance training academy. What do you do there? What is it that people can learn from there?
So my goal is to help 1 million people transition from corporate life to freelancing. And when I thought about that vision and what that might look like, imagine a community where people who are on this freelance journey could take the journey together. When we think about freelancing, often we think about people being individuals and those individuals working on their own. But the reality is we're stronger together. So I created the Freelance Training Academy that is essentially an online community for freelancers at all stages in their freelance career to come together and support one another. In addition, I provide instructional videos on a lot of the things that freelancers have to think about in terms of products, services, how to package, how to price, branding, marketing, getting new clients. But that's all really secondary to this community so that individuals can support each other and ultimately find the success that they're looking for. We also include some great resources in the academy, whether it's proposal templates or calculators or whatever freelancers need to be successful. But the idea ultimately is to create one of the world's largest online communities for freelancers where people can get support from and work with other freelancers.
Wonderful. There is much to learn from you, Michael, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn more from you, about you, connect with your academy. What is the best way for them to do so?
Well, people should definitely look for the Freelance Training Academy. They can also connect with me on LinkedIn. My last name is spelled here on screen. And I would love to talk to people who are interested in freelancing. I'm also launching a course in mid-August, the next cohort of my 7-figure freelancing course. So I would encourage people who are curious about freelancing to check that out. And of course, I'm always here to help fellow freelancers.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.